Yeah, you can make it.
Or I can give you a few minutes. Yeah, we've got a pretty light agenda.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Showtime. Oh, what? Oh, will they? I know you pronounce the Lord's name. Well, Chapin.
Actually, a biblical. I can't remember which book of the Bible.
I don't remember that from the Bible.
It's not a common name. S-H-A-P-H.
Yeah, I've got him in my phone. I was talking to him this year about the windows, Mexicans didn't know the windows were there. I told him I'm sure they were. He told me he would get them out there in the morning. But he also said he would come up and see about if he could come up to make sure doors that y'all had that were not usable. Remind me I'll tell you about a discussion I had.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 5 o'clock, so I'll call this work session of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all council members are present. Council members, you should see in the small folder your agenda for the work session. Same thing that was sent out earlier. So we're going to review the agenda as the first item. Let me do a little housekeeping. You'll notice we've added the Q4 plan that we discussed in last meeting. So please let me know if you think something was missed there. But I asked Jonathan. He said there's no real updates on that since we've just started. So he'll give us an update at our next meeting on the Q4 progress. So our council meeting tonight is Beverly. Did everybody see the changes Beverly sent out? She added just one change order item, which we'll get to. But it's other than that, it's as she sent out and posted to the website on Friday. So we will we'll approve our agenda, then the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from the last meeting, some contract billings from Wiregrass Construction on the Phase 2 resurfacing. Getting pretty close to wrapping that up, Barry and Glenn. So this is the final payment. Yeah, that's what it says. So Poly Inc. So that's for the Phase 2 and for contract services for the airport stormwater discharge permit renewal. Then we've got the final estimate number 1 from Hopper Moore on the CDBG grant project, and the Ewing Connor same project. What's the latest on that, Barry? How's that going?
So we have completed Phase 1 and went through the closeout paperwork with David Ewing last week. And,
how many homes was that?
Well, I can tell you, Phase 1, I give you a size somewhere in the 7 to 8 range was in Phase 1. We did Phase 2 and Phase 3. We bid those last week. That's an agenda item for you to award those contracts. With that, there are 24 structures that will be down at the end of Phase 3. So if y'all vote for it tonight, you'll award Phase 2 and Phase 3. Now that will be 24 structures down. The grant was for...
It's for a total of Phase 1, 2, and 3 to get 24.
24, that's correct. We're bidding them at about 6-7 per batch, and reason being we're getting good bid prices at that batch limit because it opens the field up. Get much bigger than that, then it takes a bit larger contractor with different kind of certifications. So smaller batches, we put out 2 and 3. We got good bid prices on both of those, and we're on track for budget to get close to our 42 number that we put into the grant. But phase 1 went really quick. The project contractor did a good job, and the sites are all cleared, ready to go. So we move into phase 2 and to phase 3 if y'all award that tonight, and we'll hit those running just as hard and get those done. And we're currently working on a phase 4 list. So we'll stay on it quick and get it done. As soon as we get that one done, we can reapply again for that same grant package for future projects.
All right. Any questions on that? So then we've got some engineering services for the roundabout and KPS Group, which Jason's here to talk to us tonight. A contract planning services for that. Then Fine Getty, which is our state governmental relations contract, and some travel requests from tourism, Tammy Dover. The mayor's gonna, any questions on consent agenda? Everybody good with consent agenda? All right, so moving on, the mayor will have an extra mile award. Then we've got a Main Street and FOMS downtown holiday open house, street closure, which, any concerns there, Chief Moore?
Yes, sir.
So you're good to go there. Then the Enterprise Junior Women's Club 5K and 1 mile run. Same thing, Chief. You good there? Yep. Then we'll have privilege of the floor and staff reports. So moving on to old business. So if you'll remember last meeting, we were presented with our financial audit. We're just going to have a motion to approve that tonight. Any concerns with accepting that audit as submitted? Then we've got our CDBG, like Barry just said, we've got a recommendation here on the CDBG grant to award it to Hopper Moore, which same folks did the first phase, right?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Hopper Moore, those same folks did the first phase. So they got the second one also. Is this in line from a unit cost standpoint with the first?
Slightly increased, but relatively order of magnitude very close to phase 1.
So no concerns there?
No, sir.
The fact that no other bids were received.
And the same contractor got phase 2 and phase 3.
On an average, what does that run per house?
From what I remember, about, I hate to throw this out there, but like $6,000,
Yeah.
$7,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's what I thought.
And that
That's what it
includes the
looks like.
abatement, removal of any asbestos there, and the structure. Some structures are, because they get lumped together, I believe that to be somewhere around that $6,000 to $7,000 per structure.
All right. So
I got one question. I hate to do
yeah,
go
ahead,
back. On the West College Street says November 19th. That's a month away. We should be good with the clearing and everything on that side with the barricades on that.
As far as our location, yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
More concerned than that is in 2 weeks.
Yeah. The other one.
How the bid to close it down, I think we'll work with everybody to make that happen. Where it's at right now, really the road itself is what's closed.
Right.
We'll just move the barricades and keep them off the sidewalk away from the burn area. If anything, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was the other one. Thank you, Chief.
good question, Scotty. All right, moving on to new business. So we've got an ordinance here that we're introducing tonight, authorizing the operation of medical cannabis dispensing sites. The Friday when Beverly sent this out was kind of our first opportunity to see the final ordinance. So my recommendation is that we lay this over tonight, have a chance to study it, to talk to any stakeholders in it, and then to have a public hearing on, in 2 weeks on it. Everybody okay with that process? Kind of same process we've handled several other recent ordinances. All right, then we're going to amend the business license code. These are the fixes, quote unquote, that we've been talking about for a few months now. Does anybody have any questions of staff on those fixes? Of course, we got 2 more weeks to get those questions answered, but No concerns on that. Okay. Then we're going to review and consider change order number 1 final for the FY21 resurfacing improvements phase 2. Glenn, you want to, and Barry, you want to, this was the addition to the agenda today.
Basically, it's the closeout package comprised of the final pay request, which you mentioned in contract billings, and this summary change order number 1, which is the final. This change order represents a decrease in the total contract amount of $162,840.24, which basically means we were able to underrun the quantities that we set up that amounted to that amount. So that's a good thing. That money can be used in the subsequent phases. And also there's a slight, we added 74 calendar days basically to catch up the contract time to when we actually declared it substantially complete. So that's also included in the change order. With this change order approval and final payment, that'll basically close out the project, and any items that small things that may remain or come up are in warranty items. So we're handling that through warranty. So
All right. And then phase 3.
Phase 3A is started under construction last week and continuing this week. They were in North Point today, so they're continuing to do. They're reporting streets ahead a week or so that we're communicating with Barry. Hopefully, we can kind of coordinate that as we go through the street list.
So far, so good on that.
I just encourage people that are here and online to keep watching the city's page and the Facebook page. We try to put those streets out as we get them from the contractor, and sometimes it's, tomorrow we're going to be moving here, or next week these are the streets we're anticipating to pave. Just, that's fluid, and sometimes that changes on the spot due to certain things and weather and whatever, but we try to let the public know as much as they can about what our plan is. The other thing is I did have a couple of calls to our office on phase 1, just so y'all know some items that we're watching. And Glenn, I've got that kind of as a watch list. We do have a 1-year warranty on phase 1 that we just closed out. So there are some items that we're going to keep track of and watch under that warranty that we're going to watch, but we're going to consider phase 1 substantially complete and start our warranty period on that.
All right. Any questions on paving? All right, moving on to the request to purchase skate ramps. Barry or Billy, you want to? I believe this was a budget item, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. In the budget review, I mentioned how we had a $20,000 grant to go towards skate park equipment, and we just needed to budget the rest of it, which y'all did approve, and just need to get your final permission for us to be able to place the order and get it done. Get the equipment in and move on off of.
So this Sourcewell's an approved list.
That's
to
correct.
Purchase all
The Sourcewell would be through the company, and even shows the contract number of the Sourcewell. So we'll be protected on that.
All right. Any questions of Billy?
The 20,000 is not, it's additional,
No, this is the total amount.
the total, that's the total.
So the city's obligated for an additional 28,000. Yeah, so 20 from the contract, from the grant, which is
We have to approve the total amount.
Right. So we have 20,000, then y'all approve additional budget of 28,000 to make a total 48.
All right. Then we'll have mayor's report, council reports. Everybody satisfied with that agenda? Any additions, deletions? All right, then we will adopt the agenda as submitted. Let's go back to our work session folder. All right, next item we've got is a update from KPS, Mr. Jason Fondren, and Barry Mott, and whoever else is going to be taking part in that update. Mr. Fondren, how are you?
Good. Good to see you all. Got a mind of its own. Y'all see that? Wanted to come out this evening and give you an update on the process to put together the comprehensive plan. When we first started work, the schedule was to have the plan, the draft plan completed by the end of this year, and give you some time to review that for the Planning Commission to look over that with the intent of adopting that after the beginning of the year. we're still on track with that. We had, I think, last time I saw a few of you was back in July at the community workshop that was held at the farmers market. Since then, we've put together a summary of all the visioning information we got from the survey and from that community meeting, provided that to staff to look over, and we've discussed that, put together, identified some goals for the city to kind of focus on over the next several years. We'll get to that in a moment. And put together a growth strategy, and from that has evolved into a draft land use plan. We're working on the transportation component of that to support the sort of long-term growth strategy, and working on infrastructure and these other items. We're still on track again to have a draft of the completed plan in mid-December, so that you'll have time over the holidays and in January to review that, and before we take that to the Planning Commission for them to consider that for adoption. So during the visioning process, of course, as I mentioned, we had first started out with a survey, and we had the workshop at the farmers market. This graphic that's shown on the screen represents some of the major topics that came from the community. Things. The question was, what is the most important issue for you, considering the future of the community? What would you like to see the city focusing in on? And the size of the words represents how often that was repeated in people's responses. So business growth was obviously something that was very much on people's minds, but you'll also see issues like more pedestrian infrastructure, recreation, schools, downtown. Were all, there are a lot of very important issues that revealed themselves through the comments that we received through the survey. So taking all of that information from the survey, we really identified 4 key areas for focus for the city. Transportation and infrastructure, that was sort of the top issue. And economic development, of course, there are 2 sides of that. As you saw in the previous slide, business growth, people want more retail, they want more restaurants, and you're doing all the things that you can do as a city to achieve that. It's just going to take a little bit more time, some more population growth to kind of get to that critical mass where you're going to get a Target, or you're going to get the kind of restaurants that people are yearning for. So you're on track for that. But then the other side of that is more jobs, the industrial development side of economic development, higher wages, which is also going to push that needle up for your retail growth. Then the third area, parks, recreation, and culture, there was, as you saw in that previous slide, a lot of interest in making sure, I think people really appreciate the recreational offerings that the city has, want to see that continue to grow, especially as your population grows. There also appears to be a lot of interest in having more arts and cultural activities in the city, whether that's things that are being done on the public sector side or on the private sector side, or a little bit of both. There's definitely seems to be a lot of desire for that, and there are ways, of course, that the city can help to support that. And then making sure that the schools, which are viewed as exceptional, continue to be that way, and that are protected, because that is driving a lot of that growth that you see in the community, and retaining population, which is obviously going to support your economic, your retail growth goals. So looking through as we started out this process, we did assessment of all of the physical conditions, services, infrastructure, growth patterns, and we've put together a series of diagrams to kind of represent how we would recommend that the city focus its growth and work through zoning, subdivision regulations, infrastructure investments to support continued growth. One of the areas we think that you need to pay attention to, of course, is your natural environment. There are, every city has a very different landscape, and that natural landscape needs to be protected in the ways that it helps to serve infrastructure purposes, like storm water drainage, for example. You've got a lot of creeks, hills and valleys, and creeks lying within those low-lying areas that serve an important infrastructure component in terms of stormwater management. It's also part of the green, open character of the community that people put value in as a small town. It's also in some areas of the community is natural habitat for animals. So there are some important benefits to protecting certain areas of that, particularly in your floodplains and floodways. And you see that diagram. There are, in addition to those features, there's also your parks. There are privately owned open spaces that are a part of kind of that overall system of natural areas and green spaces that are important part of the organization of the city. Your activity centers, your economic engine in the community, industrial areas and retail areas shown on here. Much of that is focused around, of course, Boll Weevil Circle, and a lot of activity, of course, on the northeast quadrant of the circle, and that's beginning to rotate around to other areas, particularly along the south side. What this diagram shows is there are particular, there's great potential at certain key intersections along Boll Weevil Circle for that to really grow much more, and part of that drives some of the other recommendations here. But in addition to your retail shopping areas, of course, where you have opportunities for industrial development, focusing in on those and kind of protecting areas for that to continue to blossom on the north side of town, but other areas along the south side of the circle where you have that great transportation access through the 84 bypass and all of the highways that it provides connections to. In terms of residential development, of course, you have a lot of historic and older neighborhoods inside the circle. Once we get the document to you, you'll see the two phrases inside the circle and outside the circle quite a lot, because the circle is a major element to the organization of the city. Of course, you're going to continue to see a lot of residential development outside the circle, but we do want to emphasize to the degree that the city is able to influence it, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of land inside the circle that's sort of been skipped over, that is ripe for residential development. And to the degree that the city has the opportunity to influence that, it will be of benefit to see those areas invested in, to see housing development inside, to kind of fill in those leftover parts inside the core city. Not to say that you shouldn't be growing outside, but be doing both and encouraging both. And Parks and Recreation, another one of those key areas that the community mentioned. What we're showing here in the diagram, you'll see the dark circles are representing where you have existing Parks and Recreation facilities. And then the lighter green areas are areas of the city that we would recommend the city look at opportunities to acquire land to have park space available in the future, because you have roughly half of your city's population living north of the circle and in the northeast part of the city outside of the circle. But there are really no parks other than Johnny Henderson Park outside the circle on the north part of town. So looking for opportunities. We've got 3 circles here. It could be 2 parks, or it could be 1 park. But we're just showing kind of 3 target areas to be looking for opportunities to acquire some land for parks to help distribute things relative to where there are concentrations of population in neighborhoods. And then, of course, you have land inside the circle, South College Street. One of the appropriate uses for that land, of course, would be some type of park and recreation use. And then you'll see on the southwest side of the circle, because of the creeks, the floodway in that area is going to be very difficult to develop for anything other than for some type of green space use. So we're showing that as another opportunity as the community starts to grow more on the south side, which it's already doing. But as that starts to pick up, look for some opportunities to acquire some land in that area for another park space. In terms of transportation, some of the key recommendations here are, of course, to finish out the widening of Old Weevil Circle on the southwest side. One of the recommendations that has been mentioned in the past and came up during the community meeting was to work with the DOT to widen 167 so that becomes a much more attractive corridor that will help to attract industrial development, provide that access that industries are looking for, both to the north and to the south. And then probably the third major issue in terms of transportation is looking at ways to create more connections between what I refer to as your spoke roads coming out of downtown and out past the circle, looking for opportunities to interconnect some of the streets outside of the circle, so that if you're coming from one part of town and you're wanting to move over to go to somewhere on the west side or the south side, you're not always having to get onto the bypass to make those sometimes short trips. If you're coming from Rooker Boulevard and you want to go over to Lee Street, you don't have some connecting streets that would give you an alternative to having to get on the bypass to do that, because you're already, of course, experiencing a lot of congestion in certain parts of the bypass, and having those local trips get on there in the midst of shopping traffic, commuting traffic, it's just creating a little bit extra congestion, slowing things down, which, I'm from Birmingham. I know what traffic's like. Traffic congestion can be like. It's not to the same degree here in Enterprise, obviously, but it's obviously not something that people really enjoy getting bogged down there. Just as a way of helping to distribute traffic and provide alternate routes, we've been looking at some different ways to connect up some existing streets to help alleviate that. And those things can be done either by the city or those can be done as development occurs. So if somebody builds a new subdivision in a particular part of town, that can help to connect up some existing streets to do that. That's going to be on the south side of town. We've got one corridor that's shown there where it's very likely that would be something that would happen through the result of developments occurring on the south side of town, as opposed to the city saying, okay, we're going to go acquire right away and build that big road. And then a lot of interest from the community in having more pedestrian infrastructure in the community. Retrofitting existing streets is very expensive, and that probably should happen in some strategic locations, which we do talk about in the plan as it's coming forward. Another way to do that is to look at some off-road trails, bike paths or walkways. Sometimes those are following stream corridors in some floodways, floodplain areas that are a little bit more difficult to develop. So it makes sense to look for opportunities to put in some public paths through those. Look for connections between parks, schools, and neighborhoods, focusing in those routes that will provide connections between those things, because we know that those will be desirable for residents. And last part of the growth strategy, or last couple of parts there, making sure that you're protecting your major corridors in terms of the appearance of those and how those continue to develop, and investing in your gateways. So this diagram shows those major routes into the community and locations for how you might invest in your gateways, whether that's signage, lighting, or any number of sort of improvements. And you already, of course, have several gateway signs throughout the community. Last part of the growth strategy is looking at annexation. Where are the areas for annexation that are going to have the most benefit to the community? There are two different ways that annexation is going to be of greatest benefit to you. One is, of course, annexing areas that have the potential for business development that's going to generate revenue, which is going to allow you to provide high quality services to the community. And of course, there are particularly on the west side of town, where you only have kind of one side of the bypass within the city limits, looking over time at opportunities to annex on the outside of the circle there and capture areas that are have the potential for business development. And then the other side of the annexation issue is capturing areas that are likely to see growth, so that you have the ability to manage that growth and maintain a balance with infrastructure and services, police services, fire department, sewer, water, all of that, so that development that happens just outside of the city limits, you are, in a lot of ways, you're still responsible for providing those services. If it's inside the city limits, it gives you a little bit more ability to kind of control the pace, density, uses that go into those areas. So all of that kind of layered together, looking at the way that land has been developed up to today, your zoning patterns that you have on your zoning map. We put together a draft land use plan. It is what the map I'm going to show you is not a zoning map, shouldn't be interpreted in that way, but it's intended to show the range of uses, densities, and development patterns that would be supported and allowed in all of the different parts of the city as change occurs. So it's not suggesting that change must happen in these areas, but as people decide to sell land or develop land or reinvest in land, here are the types of uses and densities that would be appropriate and the city would support, that would be balanced with your ability to provide infrastructure and services to all of the different parts of the community, and protect property values of existing developed areas, neighborhoods, business areas, and make sure that what gets built next to you is compatible and supportive of the city's goals. So here's the draft land use plan. You will see all of these various colors that are represented on the map. Refer back to these land use categories that are shown on the screen on the left-hand side. Anything that's sort of in the red color is going to be more commercial oriented. Yellow is residential. The dark green are your rural and agricultural areas, and purple representing industrial. What you see here is there's going to continue to be commercial development around Boll Weevil Circle, and there are several locations, strategically located intersections outside of the circle that we think it is appropriate to support commercial and mixed-use development in those locations. And the pattern you see at those intersections, it'll be sort of red at the center and then it kind of fades out into yellow. The intent in that illustration is that the denser residential would be sort of orbiting around those business areas, and then it gets lower and lower density as you get further out. Part of the reason, the rationale behind that is that those business areas are located at key intersections where you have good traffic access and the ability to have cars moving into them and moving out and flowing around. As you get further away from those, the street network is less connected and you have less less infrastructure to handle intensive development. So focusing your highest densities and your traffic and other uses that really depend on very robust infrastructure, having those located in strategic areas, and then it naturally declines into lower, more limited uses and lower densities. This is a close-up of that map. So you see a lot of that red on the northeast side, representing your community and regional shopping areas. You have, of course, some of that occurring now on the south side. Expect that to continue. So our steps moving forward will be we're going to wrap up the transportation recommendations over the next couple of weeks, and the infrastructure and facilities, dig into that with a little more detail, and have that finished out during November, and putting all of that together into the plan document with some recommended priorities and implementation recommendations, funding sources, responsibilities, what things need to come first, which things can kind of wait a little bit longer, putting that all together in a draft report that will come out in mid-December. And as I said, review that with all of you over January, and when you're ready to move forward on that, we'll be working with you to present that to the Planning Commission for their consideration. And then from that point on, we'll be focusing on updating the zoning and subdivision regulations to be consistent with what you've decided based on the plan, working with staff to fix things that they know are problematic, and making any changes that are relevant based on what's come out of the planning process. Any questions for me at this point?
Anybody got any?
It's great information.
Yeah, it's coming along pretty good.
Yeah.
Barry, you got any comments? Jonathan, anybody?
I just want to say that KPS is doing us a good job of not just doing our long range plan and helping us solve the problems, but we've had several issues come up while they were working on this that we actually engaged them to help us on, and it was very helpful to staff to have them as a resource. The biggest part that I'm looking forward to is developing the regulations after we get our long range plan done. That's the updating of the ordinances and setting forth what kind of codes do we want to have building construction done to, and those type of things will come out of this plan. That's where the real meat and potatoes will come out that we'll have as a tool for us updated to today's standards. So I'm real excited about that.
Yeah, I guess that's where it really becomes where the rubber meets the road, where we actually gain traction with this plan. Otherwise, it's just a pretty notebook on a shelf if we don't actually start implementing it into our regulations, and then making plans for the green spaces and the parks and the pedestrian access and all those things, whether that's in the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. But we've got to start implementing some of these things.
The most important thing, though, is to have that long-range plan ironed out to where we're going, so we know as these areas develop what tools do we need in our toolbox to handle that growth. So I just want to say I'm really excited to get the first phase done, but Thomas and I are really excited about moving into that development regulations portion of it. And we're doing work on that now. And we're actually considering whether or not to bring some stuff to you early. So we may decide before then. There's some things that we really need to have. It's a tool for us to work on now. But we're trying to put a bow on this so we bring to you one package. It'd be easier to digest if you had it all at one package together. But there may be a need to bring some stuff to you early. So,
thanks for the great overview. Is this timeline is that when we're going to actually start seeing the more the meat of it. I mean, the overview is great, and I appreciate that. That gives me a little bit of understanding what we're doing, but that opened up a lot of questions we don't have time for tonight.
So you'll start to see some development, especially in that November, December priorities and implementation. That's where you'll start to see some of this stuff come out of there. And there'll be a lot of, I expect us to have some good work sessions come out of that about here's some things that staff has identified that we want to work on and get that to you to give us. Is there anything that you have seen that you want to make sure that we're getting answered in this process, and start to kick you some ideas out that November, December area?
So that brings up an important question, I think, obviously, to stay on this plan, stay on this schedule. Council's got some role to play in that. You brought up a work session that, we probably need to have a fairly intense work session. Is that an after work 2 hours, or is that a 8 to 5 type day?
KPS and staff will work on that to see what we want to make sure we have a good use of the time. But part of this also is to do a stakeholder meeting. So, for example, if we decide as part of this process we want to update our building codes from where we are now to a newer version of that, we would want to have a stakeholder meeting with the people that will be affected. We want to get input from the community, from builders and designers and architects and engineers and all those people that would be affected with that to get input. But we see the council as being a stakeholder in this whole process as well. So I foresee us having a series of smaller meetings where we have groups, topics to discuss, and that's something that Jason and I and Jonathan will put our heads together and to put it into bites that we don't, too much
but that
information.
Would be more of the development regulations phase, right? Like if we're going to adopt a new building code.
I could see it coming out in that December timeframe, and then also early into the first quarter of 23. Having those.
I guess so you're not recommending that we tonight go ahead and plan for an all-day work session?
No, sir.
We're not ready.
We're not there yet, but we'll be getting there soon. I would imagine in the next couple council meetings we'll come forward with starting the implementation plan of what do we need feedback from you on.
Well, if that changes before our next meeting, then just get with me and we'll try to get something scheduled. Want to give everybody as much notice as possible, obviously.
Yes.
Councilor Padgett, we've got a write-up that goes along with everything that we've shown on the screen, so we can get that to you the next week, so you can read through that and not have to wait till December.
That'd be great.
Be glad to do that.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Fonder. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Looks like we've got some good stuff.
Thank you for your time this evening.
All right, so next item, I'm going to let Jonathan and Barry give us some updates on our projects. We've got a lot of balls in there. Obviously, this comprehensive plan being one of them, but we've got some other ones in there. So,
Mayor and Council, we talked about Council President Townsend just brought up. We have a lot of balls in the air right now, and so I thought this would be an opportunity to hear from you about which projects you might want to know more about right now. I mean, we've got design out and bid out on multiple projects.
So just update us. I know we should know this, but we've got Rec Center out to bid.
Right, Rec Center's out to bid. City Hall's still getting bid packets together, but should go out next month.
And Phase 3 paving has just begun.
Correct. And so we've also got some transportation projects that AlDOT's working on with 167 and the roundabout. We've got a few projects at the airport, one of them on our runway extension. We've got a
PV Park.
We have PV Park, pickleball courts that we're continuing to engage on, and so those are all sidewalk projects. So the veterans home, some road closures that are associated with that. So I just kind of wanted to, we have 15, 30 minutes, whatever you'd like to take. 15 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
So what would you like to hear about?
Go ahead, Sonia.
Just an update on the sidewalk project. I think that was the TAP project. It's been a while since that's been on the table.
It is. Actually, I reached out to the consultant on that one. That is one that I don't have the exact where we are. I know we're in the design process, and they've gone through the environmental, and that's been submitted back through AlDOT. I'm looking for when we're going to bid that project. I know it's coming up pretty soon. So I don't have a full update for you today, but I will get that update, and I'll email that to you for where that one is. We did close up the other sidewalk project. As of this week, we completed all the work on that and cleaned that all up.
The College
So
Street.
that's the College Street around that downtown area. So that was done. Also, we've got a project that y'all approved in our budget to do another one of those sidewalk projects. And honestly, I'd like to wait till after the holidays till we get started on that project. We have so much on our plate right now, but we do have another project like that we will be putting that out is for a linear footage type project up to a budget. So we'll be able to tackle those. So if you have other sidewalks that you would like us to consider in that, get those to me. But I'll owe you a full update on that TAP grant. I'll get you one.
The TAP project's going from the boulevard area of Delville Avenue all the way
just short of the bypass to the back side of that.
It'll cross over the Weta Street.
Just
TAP
past Weta
project.
Street.
Yeah.
To the parking lot of that strip center right there that faces the bypass.
Yep.
And that is still on schedule. It's just I can't remember where we are on that. That's one that is heavily involved with AlDOT about their processes when it comes to environmental and land acquisition and all the stuff they have to get acquired to do a sidewalk project. Because in some areas we don't have right of way to put a sidewalk in those areas.
Eugene, what would you like to ask about? We'll just
The
go
sidewalk
around.
repair that we were doing over on College Street, Lee Street over there. Wasn't there originally some sidewalks around the hospital that were gonna be repaired?
Yeah, Shannon, you might cover that one. We did have one in there, and Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had one in there in the project, and because we're doing a water line project, the water department's doing a water line project, and if we put that sidewalk in, they'd be tearing that sidewalk back out. So they've agreed to do the sidewalk in their water line project, which freed us up some additional footage for us. We grabbed another sidewalk in that downtown area that was in ill repair, and we got that one corrected because we created some capacity in that contract.
Makes good sense.
Yes, sir. We didn't want to put it down and tear it back up for the water line. But that project should be, I've been told, is 100% complete, and I'll do a walkthrough on that probably next week and make sure we're 100% before we issue final payment to the contractor.
Greg, you got anything specific you want to ask about?
No, I think I'm most interested to see if we're going to come in on some of these bids that are still being worked on.
Yeah, so I've had conversations with the architect on the rec center as late as an hour, 2 hours ago. We had a mandatory pre-bid for the rec center. We had 7 general contractors that showed up to that meeting. All of those are eligible to bid. We've gotten good questions from the majority of those. The architect has fielded a good bit of questions about, making sure clarifications, requests for information on the contract documents. We are hearing that from the GC side that they have the capacity and that they are prepared to put their bids together. However, some of the disciplines, the subcontractors that are doing work are very busy, and they're actually asked today, they came to me to consider giving them an extra 2 weeks in the bid to secure some of the disciplines that they need to put together a more solidified bid. I heard that request late this afternoon and have asked some further questions to make sure I fully understand what I'm committing to if we were to extend another 2 weeks in the bid process. My goal would be from the staff side is to make sure if the city's getting a better deal for giving them time to get a better bid price and to give us a more solidified bid. If it meets our best interest, I'm in support of giving them another 2 weeks to do that. But what we would do is we would push it back to, we're looking at possibly the 9th, which would be the Wednesday, to push the bid back to the 9th. Then that would be at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, and that would still give us time to review the bids and have it to the city clerk by Thursday at lunch to have on your next agenda. So it's pushing it just 2 weeks, one council meeting. But they're scrounging looking for good subcontractors. Everybody seems to be really busy, and they're trying to get the best bid prices they can for this bid.
So y'all can do that administratively, right? That's that
Yeah,
council
it
action.
doesn't need a council thing. I just want to inform you that if I did that, and I'm just looking for a head nod. I think everybody's in the mode. We want the best prices we can get, and make sure the contractors, if they have any open questions, we make sure that they have time to get their questions answered, and that they can incorporate that into their bids as well. So right now, I am inclined to give them the 2 weeks. I just asked for some clarification on a couple of things, and we should have a discussion in the morning. But more than likely, I'll probably push it back 2 weeks to give them the additional 2 weeks. So if that happens, we won't take bids on the 27th. We'll take it on November the 9th. So that'd be to Beverly by the 10th. And it'll be on the council agenda for right before Thanksgiving.
Have we heard anything about when AlDOT's going to put out the roundabout out for bid?
We have. We've been in discussion through our consultant and AlDOT. They're looking at a bid date at letting in April of next year.
Scotty, you got any questions?
Yeah, just the airport.
Yes, sir.
A little more on the extension.
So we're still in land acquisition phase on the runway extension. We met with the FAA and AlDOT a couple of weeks back in Huntsville at the conference. We've got a couple more land pieces to get acquired. After we do that, then they're ready to move forward with the design portion of that to get the runway extension started. And then after design, as soon as funding is available, they'll move forward with construction.
Yeah, because the map that Jason showed, a lot of area down
that
there for
purple
the
area?
industrial. Yeah, quite a bit.
Yes, sir. We made sure we incorporate that in the long-range plan to show that is protected for airport development.
Exactly. Thank you. That's it.
PV Park.
PV Park, we're close to having, and Glenn can answer that behind me if I answer this wrong, Glenn, but they are, Billy and Glenn are finalizing the construction plans for phase 1, which would be on the college side of that project. Plans to be ready to go to bid when? Advertised in November for the first phase of that up near the college side. And we're still looking at when the plans are developed for the city to come in after in the phase 2 to do the old PV Park side, to do that in-house with public workforces.
It's just 2 phases. How many phases?
2 phases. Yes, ma'am. I believe it's 3 courts on the top side. Is that correct? 3?
3 fields and 4 fields. 3 fields in phase 1 and 4 fields in phase 2. Yep.
That's right.
And then volleyball court, sand volleyball in phase 1.
In phase 1. Parking lot,
and
3
bathrooms.
phases, concession stand on the top half on the first phase. And second phase would be 4 courts, concession stand, and possibly a small maintenance facility for storing some equipment on phase 2.
So you'll have restrooms and concessions on both sides.
That's right.
Wow. We didn't even cover everything. That's a lot of stuff. Okay, go ahead, John.
So in your package, you also have a use agreement, and I've been told this can wait until November 1st council meeting, but I wanted to make you aware of it to look at it. So I don't want to steal the mayor or Billy Powell's thunder about this, but I think our Parks and Rec department has received an overwhelming amount of registrants for basketball this year. And as a result of that, and our imminent construction for a new recreation and remodel for Moose Hope, we may have 1 gym less than we have had in future years for that basketball program. And so Blake had reached out to several entities, and one that was willing to help the city out was First United Methodist Church downtown in Enterprise. In discussions with the city attorney and insurance company, we needed to get some sort of a use agreement if we were to go down that route for liability purposes for both the church and the city, at no cost to the city, but just to protect people from a liability perspective. So that's what you have in your packet there. And certainly not on the agenda. It can wait until November 1st if you'd like it, but I wanted to make sure you had that in front of you. And the ask would be to just authorize the mayor at some point, either now at this meeting or November 1st, to to be able to sign and execute that agreement.
Rainer, I'll defer to you on the urgency of it.
I asked Blake, if he said November 1st is fine.
Okay. Well, then Beverly, just have it on our next agenda. Any questions or concerns? Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir. That's it.
All right. If we don't have anything else, we'll take a 4-minute recess and reconvene at 6 o'clock in our regular meeting.
Like the glasses. Very, Clark Kent was,
Superman's starting to get old, I guess.
No, I thought it was gonna be like this one on that was just it was weird, I guess. Took me 2 to 3 days. I broke that sucker down. And I shared it with a coworker.
Like seeing that TV show, seeing people's faces.
Did you ever hear from a lady named Cookie Stone?
I can read them.
About cookies? She tasted my
I have a sticky with them, but
what did she taste? Oatmeal? No. Yeah, I guess. It was either the walnut one. I think it was that. She said, this is so. And she was acting like I want to give her some more. But I did not.
the more I wear them.
I saw that. What about a red velvet that actually tastes like red velvet, not like chocolate? Thank you, Tammy. No, it's not. Real red velvet.
They're not brand new, but I've started wearing them more. Like the more I wear them, the more I. That's who said that. Jonathan or Sonia. Yeah, I guess. I'm 40 now, so.
Did you eat that vinegar and butter? When you I had you had a red. What did it taste? Okay, it had. I'm hungry. Now. It's interesting. I can't believe he said the very same thing we said back there, Mr. Bash. You will next time. Yeah, he's over there. Buffet, Saints buffet.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 6 o'clock. I will call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all council members are present. If you would, please stand with me for our opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. We've got Pastor Dr. Clinton Bethea from Fresh Hope International Church.
Let us bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this time to gather to handle business, Father God. For you told us to do business, Father God, until you return. Father, I ask that you lay your hand upon each one of these council members, Father, to represent us, Father God, in the fullest degree. Father God, anoint them afresh, Father God, so they can represent us and fulfill, Father God, their duty, Father God, holistically, Father God, that they'll be also able, Father God, to hear the plea of the people, Father, and judge righteously. Father, I thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, Council, you've got your agenda in your packet that was distributed and posted online, and we discussed it in the work session prior to this meeting, so I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I will now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now recognize Mayor Cooper for the presentation of an Extra Mile Award to Lieutenant Chris Hurley, Sergeant Mehar Hadawala, and Officer Mitchell Royal of the Enterprise Police Department. Mayor?
I'll take it.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of our workforce and whatnot, usually we have those who go that extra mile in trying to do something as far as helping people, doing something in the community, or even promoting the Enterprise Police Department. So Greg will read off what the award is about, and then we will take it from there. Each one will receive a certificate of appreciation.
In the early morning hours of September 2nd, 2022, the Water Department Field Superintendent Alan Mahan was awakened by a knock at his home door by an officer. The officer identified himself as Chris Hurley of the Enterprise Police Department. He stated that there was a major water main break at the water tower on Highway 167 North, and the water was crossing the highway. He told Mr. Mahan they needed him there as quick as possible. Shortly after Mr. Mahan arrived, Sergeant Mayar, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, sorry, Hodiwala, and Officer Mitchell Royal was on the scene with their blue lights flashing, making it safe for passing motorists. They stayed on scene while Mr. Mahan assessed the situation and told Mr. Mahan to let them know if he needed anything. Because of the magnitude of what occurred, it took about 2 hours to stop the bleeding of the water supply and to stabilize the water pressure. During the time Mr. Mahan was turning off gate valves near the highway, the presence of the officers made it a much safer working environment. Mr. Mahan contributes to the success of getting the water back on before most customers got up to go to work or school due to the quick actions of Lieutenant Chris Hurley in getting in contact with Mr. Mahan early on, and Sergeant Mayar Odiwala and Officer Mitchell Royal staying on the scene until all water had stopped flowing and the water pressure was back up. Their actions are appreciated at the highest level.
Officer Mitchell Royal. Lieutenant Chris Hurley.
The Extra Mile Award presented to Sergeant Mayar Hodiwala by the Officer of the Mayor, City of Enterprise, for going above and beyond while performing your job duties, dated this 18th day of October, 2022. Signed, Michael Moore, Chief of Police, and William Cooper, Senior Mayor. The Extra Mile Award presented to Officer Mitchell Royal by the Office of the Mayor, City of Enterprise, for going above and beyond while performing your job duties, dated this 18th day of October 2022. Also signed, Michael Moore, Chief of Police, William E. Cooper, Senior Mayor. Who's this for?
It's the second, third, fourth, fifth.
Picture with you. Also, while we were standing here, we also want to thank Alan Mayhead, superintendent of the water department, but he was able to get with these policemen and bring something out. I understand they had tried to call him, so they had almost shoot the camera and wake him up. Anyway, we were able to get out and go to work and do the recreation.
I want to, of course, I'll tell you what, our police officers, when we're at home, snuggled in our beds, warm and asleep, they're out here on the highways, the byways. They're protecting us. They're not only doing protecting us, they're looking at everything in the city. If something's wrong, they're there. If there's a fire, they're there. If there's a wreck, they're there. They're all over our community. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank them, tell them how much I appreciate that night. They're very humble. They didn't see why I would do something like this as far as recognizing something like this. They're very humble, but I can tell you what they did made my life a lot easier, and certainly the timing of what happened and how we went about getting the water pressure back up. People woke up the next morning with water. Otherwise, the north side of town would not have had water that morning. So I think that is a lot bigger problem. But thanks to them, what they did and assisted me, and again, I very much appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor and Greg, and certainly officers, thank you all for your hard work and putting your life on the line every day for us. And Alan, thank you for your department. We certainly, I think, speak for everybody, take for granted the fact that we turn on our tap and water just comes out. So I know I take it for granted. So thank you all. All right, so moving on with our agenda, we've got a permit street closure request from Main Street Enterprise and FOMS Downtown Holiday Open House. So we discussed this in the prior work session. So I'll now call for a motion to approve the following permit request as submitted, which is the Downtown Holiday Open House. The event time is 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Saturday, November 19th, 2022. Street closure from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. The closure area is going to be West College Street from Main Street to Railroad Street. Chief Moore already gave us blessing in the work session, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We've now got a permit request from Enterprise Junior Women's Club for 5K and 1 mile fun run. So I'll introduce a request on behalf of Rachel Snipes, Enterprise Junior Women's Club, to obtain a permit to hold the club's annual 5K and 1 mile fun run on Saturday, March 11th, 2023 from 7:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. Is there anyone here that is going to address us on this? Doesn't look like it. So again, we've got our blessing from Chief Moore in the prior work session, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
I move that we approve the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now have part of the meeting called Privilege of the Floor, which allows anyone that's present here tonight to address the council 3 minutes to do so. I don't think we've got any public hearings tonight, so if you're here to talk to the council tonight, now would be your time to do that. So is there anyone here to address the council? Yes, ma'am. Please just into the microphone clearly state your name. And
So my name is Tracy Gullidge. I am here representing the Friends of Main Street organization as the president of the organization, and I want to thank you for the opportunity for me to be able to speak to you guys tonight. As you know, Sunday, a structure fire destroyed 4 historic buildings and severely impacted one other. This tragedy has affected the businesses within each of them in many heartbreaking ways. We wanted to approach you tonight to thank the Enterprise Fire Department, Rescue Department, Police Department, and all the other city workers and first responders from Enterprise and other neighboring communities that came to our aid. The outpour of help was just overwhelming and wonderful. We truly appreciate all the citizens as well that gathered to help comfort our business owners, provide support for first responders, and assist in all relocating valuable historical items to a safe location. And Mayor, it gave us great comfort to have you stand alongside business owners and citizens downtown, reassuring everyone that everything would be okay. Everyone's actions that day and in the last 2 days have stood true to the monument's message of helping us triumph over this adversity. The outpouring of support has given us all hope, and many people have reached out asking how they can help. In an effort to immediately begin to help these businesses and families, the Friends of Main Street organization has created a Downtown Enterprise Fire Relief Campaign, which is an online fundraiser that will allow people to donate funds electronically. The donations will be collected by Friends of Main Street Enterprise organization and divided evenly between the affected businesses, which are Coffee Corner, the She Shed, All About Art, Serendipity by Key, and the Bryan Pharmacy Business, Office, and Loft Residential Property. We do have a fundraising link, and it's posted on the Downtown Enterprise Facebook page, as well as our downtown website, theenterprisedowntown.com. We're also working on ways that will allow people to donate funds by check, and we will update everyone on that progress. But honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for what you do every day to support our businesses and livelihoods downtown and throughout Enterprise. Please keep the affected business owners and their families in your prayers. Thank you so much for letting us have this opportunity. And I just want to say, you can look here and you see these wonderful shirts, which I thank y'all so much for wearing them too, because it just kind of shows what kind of Enterprise pride we truly have. So thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Funk, F-U-N-K. I am a parent of the school system here since 1994. My question, and I don't want to be contentious because I have no problem with the council or the current school board, but I'd like to know why we do not elect our school board. I understand right now they are appointees. I have no problem with them. I have been unable to attend any of their meetings since my work schedule and their scheduled meetings are mutually exclusive. But I have a problem that no one in these current positions is immortal. We don't know who's going to be taking these positions in the future. And I think the electorate needs to be able to make the decision on who is in charge of the schools for their children. Right now, political appointees, they work out. As we can see in a lot of other cities and towns, they do not. And I have a concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll have comment time at the end of the meeting for us to respond. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Jessica Goodson from All About Art. As many people are aware of Sunday's fire and the loss of our business, along with others, and my mom, Regina, is a co-owner with me, and she's going to speak as well in just a moment about the She Shed. And but I personally wanted to say how overwhelmed we are by the support of the community, how overwhelmed we were on Sunday by the first responders, the firefighters. This was no small fire. This was crazy, and I feel like we are blessed that it didn't do more damage than it did, and that is to the efforts of the fire department, and they just worked tirelessly. Several businesses downtown just came to our aid, not only emotionally but physically, with food and water, and it was just incredible, and we are so thankful to be here. And I just wanted to make kind of a statement also to our customers that have made all of these comments and shown how important we have been in this community. And if we ever wondered, we don't wonder anymore. We feel the love. We will be in touch with those people, and we hope that we may be able to cover some things, and we look forward to making announcements about that in the future. But honestly, we just wanted to thank everyone that was involved.
And I'm Regina Lacey. We own the property on that corner. We have a wonderful tenant in Coffee Corner, and of course, businesses and All About Art in the She Shed. And I echo the things that Jessica just shared as far as the outpouring of support just at the moment and through today and in the days and weeks to come. We know that's there. Yesterday, I made a quick, or I think it was yesterday, but Sunday, I don't know what day it was, a quick comment. I think they've given us the clear to board up the front of the building, and Jonathan Tullis had city people down there within the hour taking care of that for us, and that means that kind of response, and without even having to ask. And it's hard for strong people to ask for help sometimes. So we appreciate all that everyone's done for us. And I just want to say to Chief Davis and the fire department in particular, all in the police department as well, but the firefighters, they fought for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it was not easy, and they stayed the course, and their training went far beyond the technique of putting out a fire. And they were so compassionate and so helpful, and even when it died down, they were there to comfort us and to assist us with trying to recover money and things that we could get to that they didn't have to do. There was never a moment of, well, we don't do, that's not in our job description. They were willing to do whatever, and even through today, they continue that. So my hat's off to them. Again, that training goes far beyond how to use a hose to put out a fire, and that means a lot to all of us. But we look forward to rebuilding and making that corner another landmark just in a newer fashion. And we appreciate all of your help and look forward to working with you all in making that happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to address the council? All right, we'll move on. Like I said, we'll have some comments later. All right, any staff reports that any members of staff were unable to address the council during our work session?
So earlier today, Chief Davis and I have had conversation, obviously, since Sunday about how do we move forward from here and making sure things are safe for everybody. And I think at this point, he and I discussed it, and we're going to close College Street between Railroad and Main Street at least for next 5 days, if not 7 days, and then play it by ear by then. There's obviously concern that with him and what could happen, what might happen, and I feel like it'd be safer. We've already got it closed and locked down, and sometimes it's just better to keep it that way until we all feel better about opening it back up. When it opens back up, like we talked about in the work session, Public Works and I have talked about it, and we'll block off that area again to let everybody get in and out, but also make it as safe as possible for everybody to make access, still have downtown events, whatever, to continue that thriving that Enterprise Downtown has. So, and we'll continue to work with downtown events and everything else to make it just as good as we possibly can. So, all right.
Thanks, Chief.
Good evening.
Evening, Chief.
I had to write it down this time. I wanted to start by telling you a quick update on the fire, obviously, everybody's familiar with. This continues to be an active investigation. We've been fortunate to work with the State Fire Marshal's office and a member of the ATF, which apparently caused some issues. I told him if he ever comes back to town, I'm going to get him a T-shirt, and he has to change at the county line. This is simply a free resource. Had nothing to do with the ATF that everybody's worried about. It's a certified fire investigator. And the good thing about contacting them, it gives us the ability. He's got federal money, so if something should have come up that we needed, then we don't have to pay for it, as well as being highly trained. At this time, we still have crews downtown. As Chief Moore mentioned to you, they will be there for the foreseeable future. As we speak, they are more than likely putting out a little more water. It's not because we have an active fire. That is because even as and congratulate Administrator Tullis for making quick work of getting that boarded up. Because of that and the wind, that has created more current inside of the building. So last night after the fact, we had a little bit of a flare-up. Nothing big. That's why we're keeping people there. So we're utilizing some Class A foam more than likely as we speak. That is just something that allows the surface tension of the water to reduce and really seep into everything a little bit better. That is our concern, and that's why we plan on staying on site on College Street. I've got kind of a rule. We don't go back. We put it out the first time. So that's our plan. And the area that sparked up last night was something that had given us zero issue. So it's a good thing that we stayed on site. Definitely want to take a moment to thank as many businesses and as many people that have done something over the past few days. Troy Fire Department was willing to send a ladder truck along with Chief Stevens. Huge help. Obviously, that gave us the ability to focus on that location, that portion of the buildings, while we focused on a different area, trying to make sure that it did not continue down Main Street, which was obviously a concern. Arnold Woodham, who was a retired Enterprise firefighter, was able to make some contacts on my behalf with Elba Fire and New Brockton Fire. The purpose of that is they would be able to come in and take care of calls that would be in town. Because obviously I did an all-call. Remember everybody's happiness when you see the budget, because I did an all-call because everybody had to come back. But that's one of those things that we had to make sure that we had all hands on deck. And even then, That's a minimum amount of people to deal with a situation like that. So Elba and New Brockton were willing to take the calls inside the city while we were busy with this, and very, very much appreciated. The fire department, thank those fire departments for keeping an eye on the rest of the city. The Enterprise Police Department made sure that we were safe and able to do our job, as well as they actually arrived on scene first because they were out, and able to help direct us to where we needed to be. Engineering, Barry Mott with engineering, he came in as a structural engineer, able to give us some advice. There was some concerns there whether we were putting our people in danger, so we backed off a little bit. He was able to come in and give us some relief and assurance that we were still good at the moment. Everybody with Public Works, absolutely phenomenal. Shannon Roberts, all their crew got us everything that we needed. Alan Mahan with Water Department. All I had to do was think about Alan, and all of a sudden he was there. So I didn't even have to call him. All I had to do was turn around and ask him a question. He just happened to be right in front of my eyes. It was very, very helpful. And obviously the primary things, we were using a massive amount of water, and he was able to assure that we continued to have that. Quick thank you to all that provided food and drinks, and I'm sure I'm not going to get everybody. I turned around at one point, there was a stack of pizzas taller than me. I didn't see them even dropped off. But I do want to say thank you. Black Cat Bake Shop and Kitchen, Cafe Roma, Milky Moose, who opened up to allow us to use their facilities as well as providing food. Sanders & Sons, Deep South Builders, Enterprise Chamber of Commerce, Navigator International. And again, if I left anybody out, please forgive me, but hopefully everybody will understand. You have no idea when you're trying to deal with a situation like this to have to stop and go, okay, well, I have to force a little bit of attention to making sure that they get to eat or something to drink. I didn't have to do that. So it may seem like a small thing to provide some fluids or something to eat. Let me tell you, it is far a bigger deal than you can imagine. And I very much appreciate that. I'm hesitant to try to name off all the volunteers. There's just too many of them. At one point, there was the Pea River Historical Society. I had to kick them out. I'm kidding. He was there. They did a fantastic job. The number of people that were involved was just excellent. The pride that everybody had in the city is just amazing. Anybody have any questions on what we're doing currently? I took a little more time than I expected. I apologize.
No, it's quite all right. Any questions for Chief Davis? Thank you for the update.
Certainly. On a quick additional note, this Saturday, we weren't planning on bringing this up. This Saturday, we still have our Operation Smoke Detector. We're going to be set up at the corner of Bell and Harrison. We'll have a tent there with a crew. We'll be giving out smoke detectors. The focus is for obviously Enterprise residents. We said that all houses need to have smoke detectors. That's what we're working towards. As well as that, we will have individual crews going door to door to offer those smoke detectors, including installation if we can provide them or assist them in any way. So obviously, we want that to be a huge success. We know the importance of early warning, and this is where the rubber hits the road as far as making sure that we got some skin in the game. So we're going to try to get them out there in those communities, and obviously, if somebody doesn't want us in their house, that's absolutely fine. It's still available to them. All we need is a little bit of information, and hopefully this is the first of many successful drives to make sure that people have early warning in case of an emergency.
What's the time for the setup, Chief? That's going to be on the corner of Bell and Harrison?
9 a.m. We're going to meet up at 8 a.m. just so everybody has some guidelines, understands how to calculate the number of smoke detectors. That'll be a central fire station. We'll be leaving there with the volunteers, and we'll be setting up over there at 9 a.m.
Just until they're gone, or you got a set time frame? Just
it's basically until we've made the canvas. We're expecting about 2 hours. I could be really wrong. If we run out of smoke detectors, I'm not going to be mad at that. The idea, like I said, in force, we want to get them out to the public and make sure that our citizens are safe.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Thanks. Any other staff reports? All right, we'll move on to old business. All right, first item is the approval of the FY 2021 financial audit. I'll now call for a motion to approve the FY 2021 City of Enterprise financial statements as presented by Brunson, Wilkerson, and Bowden and Associates, PC. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now review and consider a bid recommendation on the 2021 CDBG demolition project phase 2. I introduce and call for consideration of a recommendation from David Ewing, project consultant, to award the bid for the 2021 CDBG demolition project phase 2 to Hopper Moore Incorporated, DBA BMI, in the amount of $41,100. No other bids were received. I'll entertain a motion to approve this recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now review and consider a bid recommendation for 2021 CDBG demolition project phase 3. I introduce and call for consideration of a recommendation from David Ewing, project consultant, to award the bid for the 2021 CDBG demolition project phase 3 to Hopper Moore Incorporated, DBA BMI, in the amount of $47,050. No other bids were received. I'll entertain a motion to approve this recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now introduce Ordinance 10-1822, which is the authorizing operation of medical cannabis dispensing sites. I introduce Ordinance 10-1822, authorizing the operation of medical cannabis dispensing sites within the corporate limits of the City of Enterprise as per provisions of Act 21-450 of the Alabama Legislature. As discussed in our work session, we're going to lay this over. We're not going to take this up tonight. We'll call for a public hearing at the next council meeting, which is November 1st. We'll introduce Ordinance 10-1822-A to amend the Business License Code. I introduce Ordinance 10-1822-A, providing for an amendment to Ordinance 08-1721-C, relating to the implementation of a new business license code. The amendment calls for the addition of NACE codes 238990, 311811, 518210, 541611, 541850, and 561510 in Section 31, adjusts Schedule R, and amends portions of fee schedules D, E, and V in Section 32 of the Business License Code. Again, as discussed in the work session, we're going to lay this over and take this up on November 1st. We'll now review and consider change order number 1, final, for the FY21 resurfacing improvements phase 2. I introduce and call for consideration of change order number 1, final, submitted by Poly Incorporated for a reduction of $162,840.24 in the total contract price to Wiregrass Construction Company Incorporated for FY21 resurfacing improvements phase 2. The change order adjusts the final contract quantities, increases the contract time by 74 days, and adjusts the total contract to $3,433,870.11. I'll entertain a motion to adopt change order number 1 final.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now take up a request to purchase skate ramps for Parks and Recreation Skate Park. I introduce and call for consideration of a request from Billy Powell, Director of Community Services and Recreation, to purchase 4 half-pipe skate ramps from American Ramp Company through Sourcewell Purchasing Group in the amount of $48,265.32. I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will add as a point of discussion that there's a $20,000 grant that goes along with this purchase. So reduces the amount of the city outlay, and this was a budgeted item. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor, time for your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, on Sunday, our downtown was victim to a large fire. I want to applaud the efforts of Chief Davis and the Enterprise Fire Department. Your training and the level of professionalism shown by your team is commendable. Thank you for what you did to contain the fire and to keep it from spreading. I want to thank those that brought food and drink to the firefighters. The community sure knows how to lend a hand when times get tough. The owners of the 4 businesses and 1 residential structure are now deciding on their next step. We want to offer our prayers and support during this difficult time. The strength you have shown is admirable. To the other business owners and volunteers who helped remove the historical items from the P River building, thank you. These items are being stored in a safe place and will be returned when it is appropriate. We have a fine group of employees here at the city that also opt in to help. Thank you especially to Chief Moore and the Police Department, Mary Mott, the workers in the Engineering and Public Works Departments, and to Alan Mahan and his team at the Water Department. Our efforts return to keeping that downtown area safe. Firefighters will keep an eye on the buildings for the foreseeable future. West College Street is still blocked, as well as some parking spots along Main Street. Please use caution in that area. Pedestrians should be crossing at the crosswalk. We await the report from the investigation and will share that information when it comes available. Additionally, I want to take a moment to mention the Enterprise Police Department and other first responders for what they did earlier this month when we had the shooting at Walmart. Chief Moore, you and the team did not hesitate to act when called upon. Thank you for what you did that night and what you continue to do to keep our communities safe. In other business, from the Water Department, the Highway 167 North water main relocation is 40% complete. Our water system continues to experience steady growth. 25 new construction meters were installed in September. From engineering and public works, between residential and commercial permits, 26 were issued in September. The department is also focusing on compliance and nuisance properties. To give you an idea, we are averaging about 40 per month, and in the last 2 months, we've done close to 250. For Parks and Rec, basketball registration ended last week. The numbers are slightly up from last year. We estimate we'll have 6 to 8 teams playing. Tackle football, flag football are heading into the playoffs. The championship game will be at the end of the month. We hosted a cheerleading clinic at the Civic Center in partnership with Dolphin Junior High School cheer team. The event was a huge success, and it was the largest group in attendance since 2016. Speaking of the Civic Center, we have 14 events and programs already scheduled for next month. We have 14 events already scheduled at the Farmers Market for next month. This Saturday is Pumpkin Day at the Farmers Market. We'll have a pumpkin painting contest and game. Of course, there will be plenty of produce and vendors as well. October 28th is Spooky in the City. October 29th is Trick or Treat on Main Street. Again, on Halloween, Trick or Treat hours for the City of Enterprise will be 5:30 to 8:30. We have an incredible turnout at the Bo Weaver Festival, downtown Enterprise on Saturday. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for their efforts to put on this event. Again, I cannot say enough. To the citizens of Enterprise, when tragedy strikes, you come together. You truly have shown that we are a community that genuinely cares about one another. We are deeply rooted and ever rising. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Sonia?
Certainly thank everyone for coming out tonight. And we've heard praise and thanks from our mayor and our first responders, our chief, and certainly our downtown, I'm going to say downtown family, because I think that's what was demonstrated on Sunday. And even when we feel our weakest, we're our strongest sometimes in adversity. So I encourage each of you to maintain your strength. And I have no doubt that that corner is going to be vibrant and beautiful as ever. And I'll be looking forward to having a French press at the new coffee corner, because that's the guy that we serve, and we just gonna trust him that he's gonna get us through this. And keep your heads lifted up. And thank you to our Extra Mile Award recipients. You know, that's not fluff that we do here in this council meeting, and you get to see that because when actual things happen, we see people at their best. So we just thank everyone for everything that they've done this past weekend. And we're always thanking our department heads and our workers. And I think Mayor says it a lot that they are second to none. And that's absolutely true. So big thanks.
Mr. Goolsby?
Well, I don't think enough can be said about the professionalism and the work that our firemen and policemen and all of our city employees did. So Sonia pretty well covered everything, but our hearts and prayers, of course, are with our downtown businesses, and we look forward to a good future.
Greg? So Sunday morning, I awakened, and shortly after waking, found out that there was a fire on Main Street. I told Kimberly about it, and we were sat there for a few minutes unsure what to do, and finally decided we might be in the way if we went down there, but we couldn't not go down there and at least hug our friends and neighbors and downtown family that was suffering the devastation. And when we arrived down there, I really feel like I received a whole lot more than we were able to help, because when we showed up, several different fire departments, as has been mentioned, were working very hard to tackle a very involved fire and bring it under control. But I saw business owners, city workers, Chamber of Commerce, employees and leaders, city officials, citizens, all downtown to see what they could do to help. And while I was just standing around looking kind of in amazement at what was going on, a call came out to help empty the Pea River Historical and Genealogical Society building. A brigade was formed, and within just a very few minutes, a large amount of historical documents and pictures were emptied from that building. And what really amazed me is looking at the crowd that was in that building emptying it, to see those business owners that are here tonight in that facility helping empty that building while their buildings were burning right down the street. And so in spite of their loss, they were in there assisting to make sure that further losses were not happening. And so as we began to move around, as has already been said tonight, business owners started opening up their shops and making food and bringing all of that down. And it was just an amazing moment and a terrible moment at the same time. And so while it was a terrible devastation and left businesses and residents destroyed, I left with a very beautiful story of an awesome community. And as been said, I heard it a lot more when I was younger, but the term Enterpride came back to my mind. And so that's what I walked away from that moment, feeling like that there was a lot of pride in our city and a lot of community. And as bad as the situation is and will continue to be for those of you that lost everything, the community showed up in a very big way, and once again made me extremely proud to be from Enterprise. And I'd also like to address the question that came up tonight about the school board. I've done a tremendous amount of research on the school board. The way that school boards are done in the state of Alabama is set by the state legislature. And so if there ever is wanted to be a change in that, our representative to the state legislature and senator to the state house have to take a bill before those legislative bodies get that passed, and the governor has to sign off on it, that then all that does is creates a referendum that brings it back to Enterprise, to the citizens of Enterprise, to then vote on that. And if it passes, then it has to once again go back through those two houses and the governor to be passed. It's an extremely rare that ever gets all the way through all those pieces and passes. And this came up shortly after this council was elected. I researched it. I reached out to our representatives, and there was really did not seem like that there was much traction to be able to be had on that. So this body here doesn't have the ability to make that decision. That completely lies within the state legislature. And so any action that would have to happen on that has to begin at that level. And so just to give you the way that actually works. Scotty?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight and all our citizens that are online watching. I was down there Sunday too, and I walked away with a big old heart. I mean, it was just pumping. I just see the love. I wrote something down here: Enterprise will not skip a beat. You could feel the love and the pride down there that day from everybody. And I've said it several times that we have the best city workers in our town. The first responders are the same, not only in this town, but in the state of Alabama and in the United States. I work quite often with our first responders as a coordinator for our Coffee County Community Emergency Response Team. And I see that training, and I see the training that they provide us as citizens to help out our citizens around town when they are busy doing something else. Our CERT folks can go in and help out. And just working with not only police, the fire, and EMS folks, and the rest of the city workers, we couldn't ask for a bunch of better folks. Everybody cooperated. I mean, our citizens downtown providing food. Like Chris said, he turned around, the pizzas were there. In fact, there was another set of pizzas, pasta. I mean, you name it, it was out there with sandwiches and everything else. That's how this town is. It's one of the reasons why Dawn and I have retired here to this town. Could have gone anywhere else, but said this is the place that we want to be. We love the people here. And again, thank you to all our great city workers, all our downtown folks. Thank you for your business. Thank you for what you do every day. And that corner's going to be built back up. And it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And you know you've got the council here. You've got other folks that will be down there helping you, support you. If you need some kind of construction help, once you start, let me know. I can swing a hammer. Just show me where you want me to put that nail and stuff. And we'll come back and buy another mug from the coffee corner. Dawn mentioned that about our mugs. I said they're probably all charred up, but we'll be back. And you know you've got everybody's love and respect. So God bless everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. Yeah, I think my colleagues have said it well, and certainly I don't have some magic words that would be adequate to provide the necessary comfort. So I'm not even going to try, but just please, understand that we are hurting with y'all. I mean, I can't imagine what y'all are going through. The small family businesses are a community like Enterprise's lifeblood. So, I mean, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the talent that goes into building what y'all had, and that's not gone. The talent's still there. The effort is still there. So certainly, like Scotty said, certainly excited to see what lies ahead. But just know that this council, I think I can speak for us, the mayor, the staff. We're here for y'all. Let us know, and certainly we will continue to pray, and so we'll get through this together. But, all right, well, that's all we've got. We are adjourned, and we will be back on November 1st.